Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Gaining Perspective with Cody Armstrong. I am your host, Cody Armstrong, and today's episode is going to be about quote-unquote reverse racism. So I already touched on racism a couple episodes ago, and it has been a while since I've recorded one of these, not because of lack of motivation, but I can get into that in my next episode on why it's taken me so long to record. But this kind of this strikes me because, like, again, I just said reverse racism, right? And it really doesn't make any sense because at the end of the day, there's no such thing as reverse racism. And the context and why I'm actually even talking about this is because I saw somebody shared something that talked about racism, of course, and it wasn't even really initially the post that got me. Like, I looked at it, and I was like, oh, this is kind of stupid. And then I looked in the comments, and then I saw people, like, of course, going back and forth. And then what really struck me was that, you know, people were trying to say, like, there were white people, of course, who were trying to be like, well, this isn't, like, this article that was shared doesn't really represent what racism is, or doesn't really represent, like, a true narrative of racism and how it affects us. And not us as, like, them individually, but us as a whole, as a nation, maybe even a humanity. But so the thing about it is that I saw in the comments a person who was like, well, I'm not acting like racism doesn't exist. I'm just saying that this article that was written is actually racist toward white people. So the comment replies, as you can imagine, were of people of color. I don't know their ethnicity specifically, but, and they were saying, like, oh, typical white person trying to say that racism doesn't exist, or trying to say that they're being discriminated against, even though they have no right to say that, and it just kind of, like, it floored me. I was like, I am obviously a very apparent white man, and why would that matter? I don't know, because moreover, I don't look at my color when I fucking look in the mirror. But I know that it does come with its privilege. And actually, just recently, speaking of privilege, somebody shared an interesting article today about a girl who talked about white privilege and what it meant and how it affected her directly and her college campus and things like that. It's a good article. I'll link to it in the description below. But really, what my point is people want to talk about how you can't be racist towards white people. This isn't going to be advocation for, like, oh, poor white people. No, it's not. But the fact is, like, we do have shows out there like Dear White People, and we have tons of other shows out there, and that really advocate against, or not advocate against, but advocate for basically racism against white people, because it talks about, like, well, we've been oppressed for so long by you, therefore anything that we do is not going to be a hate crime or racist against you because you're white. Like, it's just because you guys were the oppressors, now we're oppressing you and you don't like it. So whether that dialogue actually exists for some people, it doesn't exist for me at all. I've never really been discriminated against because of my skin color. Doesn't mean that I would enjoy it, and doesn't mean that I deserve it. Like, that's what I don't agree with right there. So the comments, I did actually reply in the comments on that article. Talked about reverse racism. Again, there's no such thing as reverse racism. You can't have it. Racism is racism. So reverse racism is basically saying, like, well, this white person, blah, 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 and, and then they go into, like, white privilege and all this stuff. That, in and of itself, is racist. I'm not saying white privilege doesn't exist. It definitely does. And I actually answered that comment, or I replied to that comment in a way that was like, well, your comment of quote-unquote typical white people and this and that is racist. That's a racist comment. You're pointing out somebody's skin color, and they were trying to argue semantics of, like, well, it's not racism, it's prejudice, or it's not this or that. And I'm like, they're all synonyms for each other. Because at the end of the day, you can't have racism without hatred. of some kind. And usually, it's racism is hatred because of the race. And the race typically has to do with skin color, right? So the problem I see is that I really wish people would actually stare at each other and realize that humans are just humans. Like we're all just human beings. We all have things that might make us different, but we're biologically very much the same. And that's the saddest part about racism in and of itself, is that it should never matter about skin color. It should never, ever matter about skin color. But it does, because it's a pettiness. Nobody's lesser because of the skin pigmentation. That's just not the case. Like, I'm not greater than you because I'm white. I'm just a person. I'm average. Like, I try to go above and beyond, but not, and maybe I do get a help up. Like, I'm not going to say it doesn't exist. Maybe I do get a help up before somebody else because of my skin color, because the person that's helping people up is white, and that sucks. I'm not unaware of that. And I'm not unaware of the fact that, like, ghettos were created for poor minorities. That's fucked up. All I can truly say is there's no such thing as reverse racism, because if you want to be racist towards a white person because they're white and you don't know anything about them, you're racist. If you're sitting there saying, like, well, they're white, so clearly it runs in their family, that's racist. I have plenty of friends who are, like, black, Hispanic, Asian. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, they're all different ethnicities, and I have no problems with them, and I don't see them on skin color level. I just see them as people, and I respect them as such, and I will always see them as that. And it always kills me to see that we have to have conversations like this. And I mean, this is just my opinion. I would like a dialogue. I would like a conversation about this to see why people might feel differently than I do. But at the end of the day, like, being proud of your culture and your heritage, totally fine. Telling a white person he doesn't have culture or heritage because he's white, that's racist. Like, that's not a thing. Like, any person can grow up anywhere, and they can be part of a culture and be part of a society that is different than them based on skin color alone, but they grew up the same way, right? So that's the thing. That's what I'm trying to spread. I'm trying to spread that humanity is a beautiful thing, and humanity works together when we actually see each other for what we are. We're humans trying our best. And above all else, that's all that matters. It should never matter that your skin pigmentation is slightly darker or slightly lighter. It doesn't matter. You're a person. You should be treated with respect. And the only time where that varies is when you commit a crime. So that's all I'm trying to say, guys, is just please try to spread peace. Try to spread, like, a loving nature around you toward your fellow human beings. Being accepting, not looking at somebody as if they're lesser than you because of skin color. It doesn't matter. Anything else doesn't matter either. Whether or not they speak English, anything like that. There's no excuse to ever be racist. All I'm saying is just be adults about it. Grow up. Think for yourselves. Really fucking, like, see a person as what they are. They're just like you. They're trying their best. And, at the end of the day, that's what's beautiful about humanity, is we're all just sitting here trying our best. And we all do like to help each other up. Doesn't mean that there aren't things in society that keep minorities down. But I can tell you right now, I'll stand above those things that try to keep people down and pull the people up. Doesn't matter who they are. I will always help somebody out because they are a person, first and foremost. Their skin color is probably the last thing on my mind. And it should be, I feel that that's the way it should be. If you have differing opinions, I would love to hear them. If you have anything that you feel you could add, please put it in the comments. Let me know. And, I just want to thank you guys for watching. Have a great day.